We are talking with Pete Battistini this morning on the Super Hits Morning Show. He is the author and an expert on American Top 40. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning, Gary.
I say an expert on AT40. How did this come about?
Well, growing up, almost everybody kind of, finds some fondness toward music, and I was no exception. I probably took it to a farther level, maybe to the level of a geek. Buying records and going to the record stores and picking up the records single surveys that were printed out every week. In fact, I grew up in the Chicago area, so back in the late 60s and 70s, there were a couple of big stations that printed their top 40 songs every week on a survey, and they were left in a countertop at the record stores for people to pick up. And I would go every week and pick those up, and I'm not going to say I'm ashamed, but I still have every one of them. And that's, we're talking like more than 50 years now.
Wow.
So in any case, I developed an affinity for popular music, and somewhere along the way, I learned about a national countdown program back in the early 70s, and it turned out it was Casey Kasem's American Top 40, which actually started in July of 1970. And I wasn't able to hear it. It wasn't on a Chicago radio station until sometime in the summer of 1972. But I knew of the program, and it was based on the popular records from Billboard magazine. They printed a top 100, a hot 100 list of singles every week. And I was familiar with the list, and I was familiar with the show, but I wasn't able to hear the show every week. But once I found out about it and was able to hear it every week, then it was nothing but American Top 40 from that point forward.
Now, Casey Kasem, the host of those great shows for all those years, and I think I read somewhere that you met him and got to know him pretty well, didn't you?
Yes, I actually met him for the first time at a radio convention in Chicago in 1981. And didn't really keep in touch with him, but did get back with him sometime in the 90s. And my wife and I went out to California, and he actually set aside some time with him. We had breakfast with him, and it was just a really nice event because he was such a nice man, and I was just a fan. I really wasn't even in radio, but he realized my interest in his work as host of American Top 40, and he set aside some time. And ever since then, I kept in touch, and whenever we went back out to California, we were able to meet up with him. And so it was just a nice way to complement my interest in American Top 40.
So obviously you had a real connection with him because his interest is second to none with American Top 40 and all the popular music from the 70s and 80s. I mean, he's an icon, and we're still playing his programs.
Well, and that's a testament to not only his ability to be a great storyteller, but also the writing and research that went into each radio show, each American Top 40 show, and the staff that worked with him. And so, aside from the fact that you have all this great music, which in a way is historical in nature, but obviously entertaining as well. You have all these different trivia things and stories about different artists, and it's just a great reflection of whatever year is showcased each weekend.
So in the books, there's two, one on the 70s, one on the 80s, correct?
American Top 40 with Casey Kasem, the 1970s, and American Top 40 with Casey Kasem, the 1980s.
So are there, in the two different books, are there stories from the programs, or tell us what's in these books?
Well, first of all, I was fortunate enough to make a connection with not only Casey, but also with a number of people he worked with. And many of them provided some inside information in the way of some testimonials of what it was like to work for Casey and work with the show. And so there are a number of those in each book. And also, I have a program-by-program description, a profile of every show from the 70s, and also then in the 80s book, the same thing with the 80s book. And also in each, there's our numerous illustration pieces, whether it was trade publication ads promoting American Top 40, some radio stations promoted American Top 40 on their local single surveys, and I have a number of those in each book, and things like that. And there's also a number of testimonials from different American Top 40 fans, listeners, and anecdotes about hearing Casey on the radio for the first time and things like that. It's really interesting reading in a sense that both books offer very detailed perspectives of each time period.
Where do we find your books?
Well, you can go to my website, and the website is at40book.com, at40book.com. And there's information about each book at that website, as well as a link to purchase directly from the publisher, each one.
So really, this would be, I'm not pushing Christmas on anybody, but Christmas is a-coming. Make a good gift for that pop music fan of the 70s and 80s.
Well, maybe Christmas in July will work for
Hey, there you go. Well, Pete, what else do you want to tell us about these two books and about American Top 40 today?
Well, there are a lot of stories that Casey told over the years, and I tried to detail a few. One of them I think is kind of interesting is in the '80s book when John Lennon died. There were a change was needed to the American Top 40 program, and what I have in my '80s book are numerous pages that describe the inside workings of what the staff did, because the program that was supposed to air when the week of John Lennon's assassination, Casey just introduced his latest record at the time, and I think it was Just Like Starting Over. But the staff thought that this was a significant enough event, and Lennon was a large enough recording artist that it was justified making a change to the program. And they actually had to go back into the studio with Casey and record a new opening to that particular song. And, breakneck speed in order to get this updated introduction to the John Lennon song to more than 500 radio stations in just a matter of 2 or 3 days. And some people, may not realize that the program was actually recorded each week 10 days in advance of airing. And so when John Lennon died, I believe it was a Monday that week.
Monday night, yeah.
They had to really had to get back and rush things in order to get to stations the updated introduction to John Lennon's program and his song. And I detail significant about that in my '80s book. There are a number of pages dedicated to that and what the staff did in order to make that happen.
Wow.
Very interesting part in American Top 40 history.
No doubt. at40book.com. Check it out. Pete Battistini, it's been a pleasure talking to you today, and look forward to checking out your books.
Thanks, Gary. I appreciate your time.